Tonight on Coronation Street Update. One sentence changes everything. A furious child lashes out. A broken teenager hears the words. And minutes later, someone is standing dangerously high above the cobbles, with an entire family terrified they're about to witness a tragedy. Because Coronation Street is heading into one of its darkest emotional storylines yet. And this time, there are no villains left to defeat. Only damage. Welcome back to Coronation Street Update, the channel where we break down Corrie's most devastating twists, emotional trauma, psychological fallout, and the heartbreaking consequences hidden beneath the drama of Weatherfield. And tonight's storyline feels genuinely tragic, because this isn't about revenge anymore. It's about what happens after trauma destroys childhood itself. For months, Sam Blakeman has been carrying a nightmare no child should ever face. Threatened, manipulated, terrified. While everyone else failed to see the truth, Sam realized that teacher Megan Walsh was grooming Will Driscoll. And exposing her came at a brutal cost. Because heroes in Coronation Street rarely escape unharmed, Sam became isolated almost immediately. Bullied, targeted, emotionally exhausted. The pressure became so overwhelming that he secretly took unprescribed medication and collapsed on the cobbles. But even after Megan's crimes were finally exposed, the damage didn't stop. Because trauma doesn't end the moment the villain is arrested. Sometimes that's only where the real destruction begins. And that's when things take a darker turn. Because Sam's grip on reality has started slipping in terrifying ways. Hallucinations, paranoia, fear everywhere he looks. He sees Will chasing him. He hears conversations that never happened. Even Roy Cropper appears in disturbing visions warning him that nobody can be trusted. That detail alone is heartbreaking. Because Roy represents safety to Sam. Logic, comfort, stability. So when even Roy becomes frightening inside Sam's mind, you realize just how psychologically shattered this child has become. But then everything changes. Because Will himself is collapsing too. After finally realizing Megan manipulated him all along, Will's emotional world completely imploded. The fantasy she created around him died instantly. No Paris trip together. No escape. No love. Just betrayal. Total betrayal. And now Will can barely trust anyone. Not Bethany. Not his family. Not even himself. That's what makes this storyline so emotionally devastating. Both boys are victims. Both boys are traumatized. And neither of them truly knows how to survive what happened. But Coronation Street is now pushing them directly toward collision. In upcoming scenes, Sam confronts Will in the cafe. And the words he says are chilling. He calls Will evil. Then spits out the sentence nobody can take back. I wish you were dead. It's a horrifying moment. Not because Sam is cruel, but because pain has finally overwhelmed compassion. And honestly, that may be the most realistic part of this storyline. Trauma doesn't always create perfect victims. Sometimes it creates anger, confusion, emotional explosions. Sam isn't thinking strategically. He's lashing out from months of fear and psychological torture. But for Will, those words land like emotional annihilation. And what happens next is devastating. Later, Will overhears his father Ben speaking emotionally to Eva Price. Ben admits he fears Megan has ruined Will's entire life. Imagine hearing that when you already feel broken beyond repair. Imagine believing your own family secretly sees you as permanently damaged. That moment could completely destroy whatever fragile stability Will still had left. And suddenly the situation spirals terrifyingly fast. Vodka, isolation, despair. Then Will climbs the scaffolding in the shop yard. High above the street. Alone. One wrong step from catastrophe. And below him, panic erupts instantly. Because nobody knows whether this is a cry for help or a goodbye. Asha Alahan spots him first and desperately texts Maggie for help. That detail matters enormously. Because in that moment Coronation Street shifts from emotional drama into life or death urgency. Families freeze. Fear takes over. Time suddenly feels terrifyingly short. Then Maggie arrives. And what follows could become one of the soap's most emotionally charged scenes of the year. Maggie climbs up herself. No screaming. No aggression. Just a grandmother desperately trying to reach a boy who no longer believes his life has value. That image alone is devastating. Because this storyline isn't really about Megan anymore. It's about aftermath. The emotional wreckage left behind after abuse destroys trust, identity, and safety. And Coronation Street is refusing to simplify that pain. Sam wants justice. Will wants escape. Their families want answers. But nobody truly knows how to heal. And that's what makes the entire storyline feel so unsettlingly real. But that may not be the whole truth. Because Sam's outburst could have consequences far beyond guilt. If Will survives this ordeal, will he blame Sam? Could the families turn against each other completely? And what happens if Sam discovers his words nearly pushed Will toward death? That kind of guilt could haunt him forever. Especially for a child already struggling psychologically. At the same time, Will's survival wouldn't magically fix anything either. Because climbing that scaffolding changes everything. Once someone reaches that level of hopelessness, recovery becomes painfully complicated. Trust is broken. Fear deepens. Families fracture under pressure. And Weatherfield may never look at these boys the same way again. This is no longer a simple bullying storyline. It's a story about damaged children trying to survive adult trauma. And honestly, that makes it one of the darkest Corrie storylines in years. If you enjoyed this breakdown, subscribe to Coronation Street Update for daily Corrie spoilers, emotional deep dives, psychological analysis, and devastating theories from the cobbles. 'Cause trust me, the fallout from this story is only just beginning.